Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to this, the second Facebook Trains, Live by Revolution Trains. Um, First of all, an apology after we muffed the sound last time. It was a bit of a finger problem at this end, my fault entirely. Sorry for that. Hopefully you can hear us now. And we've got a few things to talk about, lots of fun things. So without further ado, let's get cracking. I'm very happy to say also that the other half of Revolution Trains, Mike Hale, will be taking part a little bit later on. He's going to tell us all about the Class 128 Parcels unit in Engage. That's a thrill yet to come, the 128 and of course Mike in Vision. But first I'm going to start talking about a few 00 and Engage things, and we'll take on through. And 00 modelers, welcome too. We're not just about Engage at Revolution. We've got some 00 news right through this broadcast. But first things first. So the first thing to talk about is the IWA hold all vans and timber carriers. Now these are well underway in 00. They are in tooling, and we're expecting EP samples in the next few weeks, and hopefully in time for the next Revolution Trains Facebook Live. But what we have done since we last spoke to you is finished the CAD of the Engage models. Now first of all, we're going to show you the IWA van. This is coded under UIC S-Fins 2. Now the real spotting points for these compared to other cargo wagon type vans are the two wheels on the ends and the fact that the ribs go right over the top of the roof. Now the reason for that is that the roof and sides are just one part, or actually two parts, two halves, like clamshells, and those wheels at the end, when they're rotated, they lift and push the roof so that the van can be easily unloaded either from above, perhaps with an overhead gantry crane, or from the side. And because they can do that, it made them particularly useful for carrying metal and steel. The other version that we're doing is the timber carrier. Around about 2006, those overall roofs were taken off and stanchions were added, and we're also offering the timber carrier version again in Engage, and those are running now. The vans are still running too. Those are running at the moment between Scotland and southwest England and South Wales and Chirk, carrying timber. So what are these things used for? Well, originally they were used for carrying fertilizer, and they were in Norsk Hydro livery. That's the first version we're offering. Some of them were delivered in just unbranded silver with blue ends, and a lot of them had cargo wagon colours. Now cargo wagon is a very distinctive livery. I think lots of us are familiar with that. And in this livery they've been used for carrying bottled water, they've been used for carrying steel and metals, and right now, albeit in a dirty form of it, they're still being used carrying aluminium between northwest England at Ditton and Germany. So still in use. The timber carriers, they are all in the same livery, and they carry a sort of pale blue livery, but they're again very useful because they can be mixed with other timber carriers, particularly the red kits offered by the Engage Society that were converted from the KSA wagons. And so again, they could be very useful for depicting authentic mixed timber trains with attractive colas, class 56 or class 70 traction. Now the information there is that for the 00 model, there is going to be an increase in price. We'll talk about deadlines a little bit later on, but the early bird price is ending at the end of the May for the 00 model, and the Engage models will be going available to order very, very soon. Again, there'll be an early bird price on those, with the price increasing a little bit further down the line. Okay, that's that. Moving on now to more 00 news, and this is the IWA Car Carriers. There is a little bit of news for Engage models in this as well coming, but first of all let's talk about the 00 models. We announced these a little while ago, and the CADs are now finished, so I can show you those. These wagons were originally used in France in double-deck form, but they were converted in the 1990s into single-deckers for use in the UK in our loading gauge. We're doing all the same versions in 00 that we did in N, and that starts with the original flat conversion, single-deckers, often used for things like vans and light vehicles. Now they were getting damaged. Yobs at the side of the track were throwing stones, or ballast was being thrown up by the passage of the rail vehicles. So stakes were fitted to some of these so that canvas screens could be draped along the sides. We're doing those versions as well. There's the CAD of those. Again, you can only see one of the two cars in this so that you get a decent look at it. Now, again, to offer more protection, particularly for high value vehicles, some of them were fitted with side screens and roofs. And these are also being offered as twin sets with side screens and roofs. Now, Again, this was very successful, and it was so successful that a large number were converted. And although some do run in twin sets, as you can see there, the majority actually are in quad sets. And so we're offering, as we did in Engage, both twin sets and quad sets in the covered versions. Now, the last piece of news on the IPAs is important to both 00 and Engage modelers, because some of you may know that a couple of years ago, STVA, the owners of them, who have the distinctive pale grey and red liveries, was acquired by Group CAT, a large French automotive logistics firm. And in earlier this year at Arlington Fleet Services at Eastleigh, the first set was repainted into Group CAT's colours, which is a very dark, almost midnight blue. Now, at the moment, I think only one or two sets have been repainted. That photograph is from Carl's Railway Photographs. That's Carl, who works at Eastleigh, who has a fantastic website. Go and check it out. There'll be a link in the update on our website that will follow this broadcast. And we've obtained permission, and we are going to do them in dark blue. Now, 00 modelers will be able to order them in dark blue right from the get-go. But of course, the Engage models are in production now. Where we've been in touch with the factory, and they have agreed to produce an additional 100 quad sets in the dark blue colours. So we've got the livery diagrams ready for them, and we sent those out, and they're doing those. So after this live, you will be able to, if you want to, order quad sets in the dark blue colours, but we're only having 100 of those done, so numbers pretty limited because they were just tacked on to the order right at the last minute. Okay, so the next thing to talk about is something that's quite exciting. So this is all about the Class 321. Now, those of us who've been following Revolution trains will know that this has been a long time coming. We know that we're producing the Network Southeast models. We know we're producing London Midland models. We know we're producing ScotRail Saltire models. But there are other liveries that are bubbling under that haven't quite made the cut. Now, Mike and I had a conversation about this, and what we decided to do was to get a couple of decorated shells done. Now, there was a small cost implication to this for us, but we thought it was worth it because we'd really like to see if we can get these over the line. So what I'm going to do is show you close-ups now of these. Now, the first one is the Class 321 in Silverlink livery. Now, that looks really quite tasty. Get it in the right position, there we go. Okay, so this is the Class 321 in Silverlink livery. Now, just to be absolutely clear here, what we've had done here is just a shell painted into the livery. We prepared the livery drawings and got the factory to do that for us. It's on I suppose you'd call it an accommodation chassis. It's just one of the other sample chassis we had. So the front fairing is still grey. The glazing is in there, but it actually hasn't been painted on the actual models. That would all be picked out in silver, the frames and so on. And of course, the underframe would all be correctly painted and so on. But we're hoping by preparing these models we can show people how good these are going to look. Now, Silverlink, you may recall, ran trains from London Euston up to Watford Junction, Northampton, Bletchley, Birmingham from 1997 onwards, and so they would be fantastic to run alongside our Pendolinos in original Virgin livery. In fact, though, Silverlink transferred their 321s when they went out of existence to First Capital Connect, who at the time were running trains on the East Coast Main Line, suburban trains from London King's Cross up to Cambridge, Ely, Peterborough. And so these trains ran in the Silverlink livery on the East Coast Main Line for a while as well. And they lasted, I think, in that livery to around about 2010. So quite a long lifespan for this livery. We've sent photos of these to the magazines, hoping to spur interest. The other one we're really trying to get over the line is this. This is the Strathclyde PTE Class 320. Now, this will be a 3-car train. Again, really, really iconic livery. This was the livery that they carried when they were introduced in Scotland as 3-car units back in 1990, and then carried this through to the early 2000s when the majority of the fleet was repainted into the Strathclyde interim carmine and cream livery. But this looks just a fantastic livery. Again, ignore the front there because on the models that front panel is separate clear to allow for the headlight covers. That would be painted yellow, of course, on the production models. This is just a shell we've had done to show people exactly how good this is going to look. Now, we're really hoping that by showing off these liveries, we can encourage a few more people who maybe haven't expressed an interest or haven't got involved before to step up and order these models so we can get them into production. But as I said, we are doing Network Southeast, 2 different numbers. We are doing London Midland, 2 different numbers. And we are doing ScotRail Saltire. And one good piece of news, we've now got enough orders there to add a second number. We had already offered 320 315. We're now also offering 320 318. And if you've ordered 2 models and you want to switch so that you get 2 with different numbers, obviously let us know and we'll sort that out for you. Anyway, that's it from me for the time being. Now, with news about our Class 128 parcel units, I'm going to hand over to Mike Hale.
Good evening everyone. I'd like to run through the first CAD images of our Engage Class 128 parcels unit. As many of you may know, 10 128s were built in the late 1950s, 4 for the Midland region and 6 for the Western region. The major difference between the 2 builds being that the Midland region 128s had no corridor gangway and a centre head code, whereas the Western region 128s had the corridor connection and split head codes. Just to give you a bit of background, the 4 Midland region 128s were withdrawn by the early 80s, but most of the Western region 128s were transferred to the Midland region and later had their corridor connections removed, along with changes from split head code boxes to marker lights. The geographical spread of the 128s was huge. The Midland region 128s were delivered to Cricklewood, but soon moved north to Newton Heath, whereas the Western region 128s were delivered to Southall and Teesley, or Leamington, with 2 moving to Reading, Western region units 991 and 992, which kept their corridor connections, whereas the other 4 Western region units were reallocated to the Midland region and were seen all over the northwest and into North Wales. In 1988, all the remaining 128s were transferred to Cambridge, but unfortunately were soon withdrawn by late 1990. Incidentally, just after withdrawal, the idea was to retrieve components off the 128s, and 4 of them were moved to Inverness in 1991 before being scrapped. Just to give you a bit more information on the variations in detail that we're looking at in our CAD. As I said, the main variation is the difference between the corridor and no corridor versions. But there have been other more minor variations in the builds. The Western region 128s were all built with sandboxes, which were later removed by the late 70s. There have been 3 different styles of buffers. All were built with clipped buffers, but some were later changed to ovals or round oleo buffers. And there have also been numerous different exhaust styles. If I just give you a quick overview of the 4 different CAD variants that we've got at the moment. First off, we've got the original Western region. Here you see the corridor connection, the split head code and the sandboxes on the bogie side frames. Next, we've got the plated Western region with marker lights in the head code boxes. This actually varied in position between the inner and outer setting, depending on which unit we're talking about. Third off, we've got a Western had the corridor removed and plated over, along with the head code boxes being removed and plated and replaced by marker lights. And finally, we've got the Midland region original design as built with no corridor connection with a centre head code box. So that gives you a complete overview of where we're at with the CAD. We've got some changes to make. We've got a few improvements that we'd like to make. And once the CAD is finalised, that will allow us to get a final price from the factory and open up the order book, which hopefully shouldn't be too long now. As initial release, we're looking at producing early green versions in both styles, early blue versions in both styles, with later versions in blue and Royal Mail. Thanks.
Wow, how was it for you? I think we've just seen a bit of broadcast history made. Fantastic. Thanks, Mike. That was wonderful. So, a bit more information from me now. And just to, something I should have said at the start, actually, is that I've seen a lot of you have been asking questions. We're going to try and answer questions in a short while and before we close off the end of this broadcast. But in the meantime, let's move on to PFAs. Now, last time, those who joined us and fought through the sound problems would have seen that we had the first CADs from our friends in Dublin at Accurascale of the Engage PFAs. Now, they've been tweaking those CADs, so we can show you the updated versions. First of all, the Kwoods one. Now they've corrected the container. We've lost the CPL placard from the side, so that's pretty much ready to go. We're happy with that. And we're also, as well as the Kwoods version, which is how they were originally introduced in the mid-1980s for containerized coal, we're doing the DRS version carrying the low-level nuclear waste containers. Now, those are half-height containers used for carrying all sorts of low-level nuclear waste. Now, that's not anything nasty. It's stuff like gloves or masks or things that nuclear workers might have used when they were handling or dealing with nuclear materials. And the last, of course, is that DRS do also run these wagons a lot as runners, and so we are offering them in the DRS section unloaded. So just the thing. Now, a couple of points on this one while it's up on screen. The white deck that you can see there is all going to be die-cast metal. The point of that, of course, is to make these models as heavy as possible. In Engage, they are small, but we do know that the heavier the model, usually, the better the track holding. And so that's all going to be die-cast to get as much weight, low-down weight into these models as possible. And also, you can probably see all the brake details are in there, the air tanks, the pipe runs, all the stuff that we love and we always try and put on our models. So that's it for the PFA containers. The tooling is starting on those. You can order them now, but there's no deadlines on those just at the moment. Now, I need to talk a lot about deadlines coming up because the end of May, May the 31st, is a big deadline day for Revolution trains. It's a deadline for a whole host of things. Now, first of all, let me show you the KUA. Now, this is what we led on last time, the decorated sample of our fantastic twin bogie nuclear flask wagons. Now, we're selling these as a twin pack. There are two in service in Britain now. They're used to take spent submarine fuel from Devonport or Rosyth in Scotland to Sellafield for processing. They're often used with the escort coaches. Now, these are being sold in a twin pack. There are only two in existence anyway. At the moment, the price is $139.95, but from May the 31st, that's going to go up to $159.95. So if you order before May the 31st, if you're in the know, you can save yourself a bit of money by hitting that early bird price. Other early bird prices that are going to change are for the IWAs and the Eco Frets in 00 as well. Those, the Eco Frets in 00 going on available to order soon. The Eco Frets in Engage, again, the early bird price at the moment is going to go up at the end of May. So make sure you don't miss that end of May early bird deadline. Okay, now just a few other things to talk about. Now let's talk about some things that we've actually got for sale. Now, and first of all, before we talk about that, I want to give a little plug to our friend Joe, who has produced some decals to allow you to patch over the Cemex branding on your HOAs. I'm sorry, we skipped the So we're just going to show you something, which is So here's Joe's Cemex branded HOAs. They are the model as supplied has a Cemex branding on it, but Joe has produced decals to allow you to patch over, which is what happened on the real thing. It happened quite soon after they were introduced as well, probably within about 3 or 4 years. So if you look up steadfast models, that's what Joe's calling them himself, and there are links to that on the Engage forum. There are links to it on, I think, RM Web, and there are also going to be links to it on our own website as well. So you can find them that way if you're interested in updating your HOA hoppers. Beyond that, a few other things. Now, we have had a bit of a sort out. Who hasn't been doing a bit of tidying during the lockdown? Well, we have as well, and we found a few things. Now, I'm going to run through a few things for you. First of all, we still have got some of our Engage IZA cargo wagon twins with and without lights in various liveries. You can order those. We've got a few sturgeons left over. Now, when we produce our models, obviously we produce them to pre-order to customers at an early bird price, and we also produce some for retailers. If they decide to order some, they obviously sell them at a higher price. The retail price you know all that. But we also produce a few extra ones for warranty replacement purposes, and just to be on the safe side, really, in case someone somewhere has miscalculated or has a few just miscounted. On top of which, there are also always some people who, unfortunately, for whatever reason, have to cancel their orders. Now, our policy has always been, if somebody wants to cancel, we let them. We don't try and hold them to the deal or anything like that, so where we can. So we do usually have a very small number of things left over. So we have got a few. We've got a few of the HOAs available to order in all the liveries, including EWS. Sturgeons I've already spoken about. We've also got some of the double O gauge MMAs and JNAs. Now these are red ones. There's a very limited number of red ones. I'm pretty sure these are sold out virtually everywhere. We've got a few of those that we've turned up. And we've also got a few of the PFA, KFA N-gauge container flats. And on top of that, we have also found a few Pendolinos. Now, I've literally got, I think, about half a dozen of these, probably fewer than that. So if you're interested in a Pendolino, jump on our website straight after this broadcast. And they're not all we haven't got all the numbers. I think we've only got a few Virgin Heroes and maybe a couple of City of Birmingham's or City of London. I'm not quite sure, but we've got a few. You can order those after this is over. Now, this is the point where we're handing it over. I'm going to start answering questions, and I'll start looking through to see what you're asking. And Mike's been answering questions as well. He's contributing on the thread there as Revolution Trains, and I'm going to see if there's anything I can answer for you. Yeah, so in terms of the 321s, yeah, Mike's already said that West Yorkshire has been cancelled. Northern is still in the running, but needs quite a few orders. I should also tell you, we did look at producing a shell for First Capital Connect in that really fantastic blue livery with the pink fades down the sides. Unfortunately, that's just not near enough, so we've had to cancel First Capital Connect as well. What else are people asking about? Oh yeah, will we do any O gauge? We actually had a chat with somebody from the O gauge Guild at Model Rail Scotland, which we attended in February, in the glorious days when people could actually socialise and go to model railway shows. We're not sure what people want. We don't know the O gauge market. We're not O gauge modelers. It's something we'd certainly keep under review. So if you've got any strong ideas, please get in touch, email us, and we'll see what we can do. The chances are it wouldn't be anything that we haven't already done. It would have to be something we've already done. One of our wagons or something similar. It seems to us a lot of our wagons are big bogey wagons. Now I appreciate that there is a Dapol O gauge 66 on the horizon, but I just wonder with O gauge, I tend to see O gauge as being a lot of motive power depots, lots of locomotives, and maybe one little tanker being brought every now and then to refuel the depot. Not necessarily sure it's a wagons market, but of course I could be wrong about that. It's not a market I'm familiar with. ScotRail 334, well, okay. Class 321 in double O gauge, that's a question from Campbell, right. Well, yes, we're aware there's a Bratchel kit, as we've said to people at exhibitions. We'll always look at doing models in double O that we do in N, but at the same time, we know it's not a market we're that familiar with, and I think we'd be quite nervous about producing a powered model in double O, again, because it's not necessarily something that we are that familiar with. However, it's certainly something we're looking at. Somebody's asking what escort coach we recommend for the KUAs. That's a question from Harry Coles. Harry, what I can tell you about that is that Farish did the Mark II. Is it Mark IIZ? I think it's the Mark IIZ's brake coaches in DRS livery as courier coaches. They're the right ones to use. DRS have also got some converted air-conditioned Mark IIs, but the ones I've seen in photographs, mostly with the KUAs, the non-air-conditioned ones with the slightly deeper windows. And they were available a couple of years ago. I'm not sure if they're still available. Maybe some retailers will still have some in stock, but they're absolutely the right coach to go with this. In fact, one of the reasons we chose to do the KUA was we thought, well, the escort coaches are actually available. And Farish did a fantastic job on them because the real things had the gangways removed, and they had, I think, a window from a Class 57 put in vertically in the end of the coach, a strengthened, toughened window, and Farish actually tooled up a body shell to do that variant. So they are actually a really, really good model. Neil Mansell, any news on the 92s? Same old really. They are in production. Every now and then I get a note from the factory querying a particular aspect of delivery. I hope they will be here soon. Rapido, I know, are keen to get them to us as quick as possible. I think we all know now that China had its own coronavirus problems a few months ago. That did cause them some delays. They seem to be getting back to approaching normality now, but I'm hoping that the 92s will be ready to ship maybe next month, but we don't know for sure. And it's silly sort of giving a definite date because we just don't know. We'd only have to change probably. Yeah. Sorry. Adrian Cheryl actually has been passing on the information about the DRS coaches. So that's pretty cool. 5 9. So we're looking at 128 is one of. Are the JNAs going to be shrunk to end? Asked Stuart Wright. He's a troublemaker, that Stuart Wright. Absolutely. We're really keen to do the JNA MMAs in N-Gauge. I think they're a fantastic looking wagon. And the factory that did them is one of our sort of, dare I say it, favourite factories. They're really, really good operators. We've already talked to them about doing that in N-Gauge. It will come in due course. The other thing, of course, is that we realise that people have got limited funds. We've got limited capacity in some regards to getting through this stuff done. But they will come in due course. Don't worry about that. Christian Hancock, any news on Class 92 on Mark 5s? Okay, so the Mark 5s being produced for us in association with Accurascale. The CADs are just about done, is my understanding. I think we're just waiting for them to go into tooling. And I suspect that they'll be going to tooling in Accurascale's factory as soon as that factory has capacity. As soon as we get information that's happening, and as soon as, of course, we get samples, then we'll absolutely be putting it all over our website and social media here on Facebook. So you will find out. Okay, so I'm just going to take one more question. So Kenny McLachlan, is it possible to... There's a couple of questions about Pendolinos, actually. Is it possible to obtain a DCC sound kit for the Pendolino? And is there an option to do another run of Pendolinos? So yes and yes. We do supply them still. Some of the ones we've got, I think, have got DCC sound. If you can't get a DCC sound one, though, talk to Lego Man Biffo. He'll be able to provide you with everything you need. Of course, the models, even the DC silent ones, come with speakers pre-fitted, so that makes it a lot easier to fit DCC sound. In terms of another run of Pendolinos, yes, we've got the artwork already sorted out for the Virgin Flowing Silk models. Avanti have sent us the artwork for their Pendolinos. There's been a slight delay there, just firming up the I, dotting the I's and crossing the T's to nail down the agreement with Avanti. Part of the problem being that we were literally about to go and then suddenly the whole lockdown situation started, so they've been slightly distracted by perhaps slightly more important real life events. But we do want to get those sorted out, and as soon as we open the order book, we'll let you all know. There'll probably be a couple of hundred of the Flowing Silk versions, maybe a couple of hundred of Avanti, and we might do one more in the original Virgin livery as well, just so that people who missed out on that really great looking train first time round, or fancy another one to add to the fleet, can knock the spells out. So that's it for the Q&As. I think we're going to have to leave it there because time is ticking on. It's nearly 8 o'clock, and I'm going to be going on the N-Gauge forum a little bit later after I've had a breather and maybe a cup of coffee or something stronger. To pick up anything. There's a thread there about the Revolution Trains Facebook Live, so ask me questions there and we'll sort of type out an answer. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. So happy that there's technical problems last time, the sound got sorted out. So happy we were able to involve Mike as well in what I believe is his first appearance on mass media, so something of a TV first there. Great to talk to you guys. Thanks very much for joining us. Thanks for taking part. And there'll be another live like this, I hope, in about 3 or 4 weeks when we should have quite a few more exciting things to show you. Thanks very much for joining us. Bye now.